everybody, welcome back to another video. I decided I think I'm going to do something a little bit different today. Instead of doing a normal guitar video, I felt like now might be a good time to do a video about how Allan sort of thinks of soloing or interpreting his charts, or even how to understand this picture that I found on the internet. Now that picture actually is a way for Allan to sort of think about harmony, and I figured maybe I'll go through that today, and I'll show you some examples of where he's used it in some of his handwritten charts. So yeah, let's get started. Alright, so the first thing that we have to do to understand that chart and how Allan sort of writes out his charts and his symbols is to know what they mean. And the simplest one is this. X. What does that mean for us normal people? X to Allan means Dorian. Now all this stuff I've gotten from his instructional book, which I have here, and also I've taken still shots from his instructional video, so you can see that I'm not just really making this up and what they're actually rooted as. So X, when you see X, X means Dorian. So you might see something like he'll write DX or something like that. That means D Dorian. Now the way that Allan thinks of harmony is that he doesn't really think in modes. He just thinks of its overall scale. So all these scales that I'm going to go over, as he says in his instructional video, are completely unique and have their own interval structure to them. They're not always the same. They're not built from the same scale as in different modes. They're all completely unique. So this one, any chord that belongs to the regular major scale or a major key, he thinks of Dorian, or the second mode of the key. That's just how he interprets it. So if you have a chord in, let's say, D Dorian, and the notes are C, B, F, D, makes no difference. He's thinking, I'm not thinking of a mode, I'm just thinking that I have to play this there. So no matter what wacky chord it's going to be, he's thinking D Dorian. So that's what X means, and that's important because all the other scales are kind of built from this interval permutation. So Dorian, D Dorian, is built 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. And this is important. Now if we're doing it in D, the notes would be D, E, F, G, A, B, C. The second mode of C major, D Dorian. Alright, so then from there, we go to his next symbol, which looks like this. X with the circle around it. Now that to him means melodic minor, or basically you're taking that Dorian, or the X, and then now you're sharpening the 7th and making it a major 7th. So to this, X with the circle means melodic minor. So D with an X, the circle around it, means D melodic minor, and you can see that from this picture here that I took from his instructional video. So now we have DX, which is built 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, D Dorian, and then D melodic minor, 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Two completely unique scales. Then from there, Allan starts to take some of the notes and alter them and starts adding numbers in. And this is relatively easy to follow as well. So the next scale that you'll see, remember this, all these different scales are in the book and in his instructional video, is X circle, so that's melodic minor, minus 6. Minus sign means the flat. So this is melodic minor, flat the 6th. So if we're looking at that with our numbers, 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we're flattening the 6. So what do we have here? This is harmonic minor. So if we were to do D, X, 6 like that, that means D harmonic minor. D, E, F, G, A, B flat, and then C sharp, I guess. Yeah. So that would be D harmonic minor. So the other symbols, there's two other symbols that we have to concern ourselves with, is X, the circle around it, plus 4, which the plus here means sharp 4. So now we get the melodic minor scale, and then we're going to sharpen the 4. 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and now we sharp the 4. What scale is this? It might not be obvious, but we have a 1, 4, sharp 4, 5, and a 7. That to me is a Lydian kind of thing, especially the sharp 4 with a major 7. But now we have the flat 3. That is Lydian minor, which is a mode of harmonic major. So this is Lydian minor. Lydian minor. So those are the 4 completely unique scales. We have, write them all here, X, which means Dorian, 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. X with the circle around it, which is melodic minor. That's 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then all the other scales that are different interval configurations of that. Harmonic minor. Which is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, 7. And then finally, X, melodic minor, with a sharp 4, which is Lydian minor. Do it again. 1, 2, flat 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7. These are 4 completely unique scales that Allan basically builds all of his solos off of as you read most of his charts. Most of the time it's Dorian, or it's just different major scales. Sometimes you'll even see this on his charts. So to me that's meaning it's probably more of a major sound. It's more of a major sound, but think of Dorian instead, or you could play C major or D Dorian. They're basically the same thing. Once in a while you get some peppered in melodic minor stuff. Once in a while you get harmonic minor, especially like for a Phrygian dominant kind of chord. And then lastly, the one that you really don't see the most is Lydian minor. The only scale that I can, or the only song that I can think that he actually uses Lydian minor in to improvise with is Letters of Marque, the whole Lydian minor section, which also he talks about in his instructional video. Now from here, we have one more scale that we need to cover. This is also in the book. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Dorian, melodic minor, harmonic minor, Lydian minor, which is the 4th mode of harmonic major. And that symbol and that scale is this. I don't even know what this is supposed to be. I guess it kind of looks like a pineapple. He talks about this in the instructional video. These are what he starts to call the jazz scales, and this one I see the most. This one is basically a major scale with an added flat 6 or sharp 5. So if you were to see this, C with that weird symbol, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, flat 6, 6, 7. So it's an 8-note scale. It's an added note scale. You're adding the flat 6 to this. So the notes would be C, D, E, F, G, G sharp, A, B. 8-note scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is also known as the bebop major scale. And the first time I actually saw and heard about the scale was a Barry Harris video. He calls it a diminished 6th scale, which I think is really bizarre, but it was the first time I heard about it, and it's actually pretty interesting. So now, with all this information, we're going to now try to figure out what's going on in that chart that I uploaded, and so you can have a better understanding how Allan sometimes thinks of scales when he's playing with, when he's improvising or trying to play over a specific chord, what choices you have to improvise with. Alright, so now we're going to start looking at that sheet that I had posted before and try to figure out what's going on and what all those weird symbols mean and all those rows. So we've got 12 rows, we got 4 columns, 4 different groups, each group scale being the same for each column and each row starting in a different spot. So I think the best way to approach this is going to viewing everything in C major, because to me it's easier to see everything in C major so you don't have to worry about any sharps or flats, or if they're in there, they're a little bit more obvious too. They sort of poke out a bit more. So we're going to start with our major one, which is identifying that. Remember, that's our major with the added flat 6. So now if you look in on the picture that I posted here, we'll see there's a C with that kind of weird thing going on. So we're going to concentrate on that row. We're going to concentrate on all the different scales that are in there and those symbols and figure out what they mean. So the first row has all of these X, the flat 6. Well, I'm sorry. I know we already talked about that. That's harmonic minor. So in that row, you'll see that the first one is AX with the circle on it, the flat 6. A harmonic minor. Simple enough. So let's write out those notes. A, X, the circle, minus 6. Meaning A melodic minor with the flat 6. So we have A, B, C, D, E, F. G sharp. So we have our 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, sharp 7. Or actually, in this case, let's not sharp to 7. Just keep it regular 7. I think that might make more sense. G sharp. So we have our melodic minor with the flat 6. Then, the next row that we look at now has, I have to double check, C with the pineapple. And then we talked about what this was before. This is a major scale with an added flat 6. So now let's figure out the notes in there. C, D, E, F, G, G sharp, A, B. This one, remember, is an 8-note scale. It's an added note scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, flat 6, 6, 7. Alright? So that's that. I hope you can see this pretty clearly. I can't really zoom in anymore. So now we're going to go to the next row that we have, and we'll see that it's actually D, X, plus 4. Now this we didn't talk about, but I'm pretty sure with the data that we had before we can extrapolate what this is supposed to be. X means Dorian, and then we have a plus 4, which to me means sharp 4. I don't believe this is a 8-note scale. I believe this is just Dorian sharp 4. And the notes here would be D, E, F, G sharp, A, B, C. 1, 2, flat 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, flat 7. Dorian, minor with the natural 6 and a flat 7, but now we're sharpening the 4. And then finally, that last row that we have, F, X with the circle, plus 4. Now this one, if you remember, is Lydian minor. Harmonic minor, melodic minor with the sharp 4. And when you figure that out, that's really Lydian minor, the 4th mode of harmonic major. And the notes that we have in here are F. Well, actually, I'll just write the numbers here on the bottom so it's easy to see. 1, for 2, flat 3, Lydian minor, sharp 4, for that Lydian part of it, 5, 6, 7. A major 7 with the sharp 4, but now it's minor. F, G, A flat, B, C, D, E. So that's all the notes that are in each column. Well, at least what's going on for each column. They just have different roots at different starting points. And now if we look here, we can pretty much see what's going on. Each one of these scales is basically the same. Now if you look, Dorian, sharp 4, and A, harmonic minor, are actually part of the same scale. They're different. They're just different modes. A, harmonic minor. If you think of your first mode as Ionian sharp 5, your 6th mode is harmonic minor, and then your 2nd mode would be Dorian sharp 4. So these are actually the same, and this is actually, I thought, was really surprising because this is very rare of Allan. He usually doesn't think of different modes, and in this case, it's the same. They're different modes, but of the same scale. So basically, we can just erase this and just chalk that down to that. Now, if we look and we start on C for each one of these, so now I'm going to do a little bit of rearranging. So I'm going to really just remove these symbols here. And I'm just going to start calling them harmonic minor. This is the harmonic minor one, and then this was our Lydian minor. Now if we just rearrange the notes and we now start on C, we have C, D, E, F, G sharp, A, we needed a G, and then an A flat, then a B. This mode is Ionian flat 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, flat 6, 7. And now the harmonic minor one, as I said before, if we start on C, is actually Ionian sharp 5. C, D, E, F, G sharp, A, B. 1, 2, 3, 4, sharp 5, 6, 7. So now if you're looking at these, you can actually tell that these are really, if you combine both of these scales, you get this. So actually, all of those scales that are in there are all part of major scale with an added flat 6. They're both in there. C, D, E, F, G, G sharp, A, B. Now this is really interesting because there are a lot of different chords in here that you can use to scale over, and sometimes Allan uses them in an interesting way. And I'll give you an example right now. So if you look at the Tokyo Dream chart, you'll see that Allan uses that group of scales I've just shown you, and this is how he's using it here. So if we look at all the different chords that we can find in the C major scale with an added flat 6, you'll see that we have C, E, and G. We have a C major, but we also have a C augmented. So we have a C and a C augmented chord. D, F, A, plain old D minor, nothing crazy with that. But if you think of this as A flat, we also have a D diminished chord in there. We start on E, E, G, and B, that's E minor. But we also have an E, G sharp, and B, E major. Next chord, F, A, and C, F major. But we also have an F minor, because you can treat that as A flat as well. A minor. If we start on G, we get really a G, and that's the only thing that we have there. If we start on G sharp, you'll actually see that we have a G sharp, a B, and a C. That's an augmented chord. Also, G, C sharp, and E. G sharp, B, and D, that's a G sharp diminished. That's what I meant. So we have a G sharp augmented, G sharp, C, and E, and a G sharp, B, and D. That's a G sharp diminished triad. If we start on A, we just have a plain old A minor. And then if we do B, we still have a B diminished. But if you add the next note, B, D, F, G sharp, you also have a diminished 7. So not only is it there, but you also have a B diminished 7. And as you know, that the B diminished is, or the diminished 7 chords are symmetrical, so you also have a D, an F, and a G sharp diminished 7. So all these chords are hidden in here. Some of them are obviously diatonic ones, C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, B diminished, but then you also have these other ones. And the reason why I bring this up is because there's a part in Tokyo Dream where Allan is playing with his left hand, he's playing an E flat major triad, and then he's using his right hand to tap a D major triad. So you have two major chords a half step apart. And anytime I see that, I always think of harmonic minor. But Allan does a little bit something here, because if you look, you have an F major and an E major right next to each other. So if you transpose that to the key that how it's used in Tokyo Dream, you have a D major and an E flat major right next to each other. And it's really just a whole step down, I believe. It's just B flat, it's in this key. B flat major with an added flat 6. And if you look at the Tokyo Dream chart, over that chord, over this chord here, it's an E flat plus a D major triad. If you see for that B flat with the added flat 6, you should see that these two chords should also be in there as well. And if we just write it out, actually, if you look at the chart, you'll see, I gotta look at the chart again, you'll see that the scales that are associated with that are B flat, obviously, with the added flat 6. The other scales that you can use there, I'll just sort of, I guess, box them up because it'll be a little bit easier to see, is G harmonic minor. The other scale that you can use for that is C Dorian sharp 4, which, as we said, these are part of the same key anyway, so it's not really like it's adding anything. It's its own, it's the same scale. And then finally D sharp. Well, actually, instead of D sharp, I'm just going to write E flat. E flat, Lydian minor. And you'll see that that's what's in that bubble. So that's just a little insight into how Allan sort of thinks of those chords. Or even, actually, you know what? In Lanyard Loop, he plays, I think, a B flat major 7 sharp 5, and he uses B flat major with an added flat 6. And of course, that flat 6 could be the same thing as a sharp 5. So it's another instance of him using that scale. So pretty much, if you want to think of the sort of the way that Allan does, any chord that sort of fits in there, you can use that scale. major scale with an added flat 6, just like I saw here. So when he gets to that chord, these are all of his choices that he can use. He can use the added flat 6, or the G harmonic minor, or C Dorian sharp 4, or E flat Lydian minor. And as I said before, these are the same. These two are the same mode, and if you can actually condense all of that, and you can really just think of this as really what it all belongs to. You can think of all those things are just different ways of phrasing the major scale with an added flat 6. So yeah, and I think what I'll do is I'll link the Barry Harris video where I learned all this stuff, because that was just all the triads that you can do. I didn't even talk about any of the 7th chords, the major 7s, major 7 sharp 5, minor 7, all that kind of stuff, and you could do that too. So hopefully this video gives you an insight on how not only Allan thinks of harmony, or what he's improvising, what choices he has to use, but also being able to understand his symbols and what he's thinking. Because as I said before, he thinks of the chords belonging to a scale, really. So when he sees a chord, he's not thinking modally, he's thinking what scale does that belong to, whether it's melodic minor, harmonic major, or just a regular major scale. For the most part, it's going to fit in the regular major scale. But for any of the weirder outside stuff, we do that. I mean, there's times where he just has A minor for like 4 measures, and he just throws the book at it. But this is more for more complicated stuff, the different choices that you have available. Instead of just playing one scale over it, you have some different choices to make your phrasing more interesting. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. The next video hopefully will come out soon. That's it. Thanks a lot.